All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Deconversion Stories. And already you can probably see that Mikey is not with us. He is with his wife. Apparently his wife's family showed up out of the blue or something and dragged him out to some big ass barbecue, which I'm kind of jealous of. But at the same time, the show must go on. But Mikey does. He's pretty sure he'll be with us for the after party. But today I have my friend David McDonald here, who is also a podcaster. I do have his Twitter and YouTube linked independently below, and a link that'll lead you to all his other links for stuff like that. If you haven't checked him out, I'm already subbed to his channel, so definitely check out his channel. He's got some good stuff on there. Welcome to the show, David.
Oh, thank you so much. What a gracious introduction. I actually, I just have to say, it's funny that you mentioned my podcast because yesterday I had Thomas Westbrook
Yes.
on. It's recorded, not live. They're going to be live soon, but on the podcast, people choose their drink. It's called the Deep Drinks Podcast. They choose their drink, and of course, Thomas chose the most alcoholic concoction I've ever had. It was literally
This does not shock me.
It was a shot of gin, a shot of blue Caraquai, a shot of vodka, a shot of tequila, a shot of rum, and I'm hungover because I continued drinking afterwards. So it was a great conversation.
I saw the tweets about that, and you look like you hit ever or something twice instead of
and that wasn't
had a few.
Yeah, definitely had a few. And I had to go to a family thing afterwards, and it was I had to just pretend I was sober the whole time. I was just sitting there, just like spinning. It was great. It was good fun.
Sounds like an adventure.
Yeah, and you dropped a bombshell on me right before we started. You said that the music at the start is your band.
Yes, that's correct.
I remember when I was listening back to it a while ago, I was like, wow, because the start sounds like a little bit like System of a Down or something, and I was like, this is sick.
We get that a lot.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, it's awesome. I'll have to check you guys out when we're off.
I will send you our SoundCloud link after that, because that's
sweet.
That's where it all is. And we're going to be going back into the studio to record about 8 new tunes. So there'll be more music coming, folks. So one of the things we do like about the band is that we have like different sounds, as well as like not every song is like a Nickelback album where you listen to one and again to the end and like, was that like one big long song? So it's like we like to vary it up so that we show all our influences and stuff, I think, in our music. So anyway, but that's not what this show is about. It's not about me talking about the fucking band, but it is about the deconversion stories of people that I have on the show, David. So basically what I ask is for folks to sort of take us back to the days, when they were involved in some sort of a belief system and how exactly you found your way out of it.
Right. Well, geez. Do you want the 4-hour version or the? No, I'll give a concise version. Essentially, I was the abridged version. I was a youth pastor for a little while, and I completed ministry college. I was part of a Pentecostal church. We spoke in tongues, laid on hands, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I kind of grew up Christian, but that wasn't really what really got me like solidified in the faith. What solidified me was, I kind of went through some depressing years as a teenager, just typical teenage stuff. And then I got invited to this youth group by 3 girls. Went along, and I had this in quotation marks spiritual experience, like this incredibly overwhelming, looking down at a puddle of tears, felt all the hatred leave my heart kind of experience. And three weeks after that, I went to their youth group, and it was more of the same. It was almost a revival kind of esque type thing, but only like 50, 60 teenagers who, were all praying for each other. Like, I remember still standing around looking at one of my mates who's convulsing on the floor. Like, I don't know why no one's calling an ambulance now. Look back at it, but fully like slain, what they call slain in the spirit. Blubbering mess, speaking in tongues, shaking. We had to pick him up and carrying him to the prayer meeting because he was on the grass outside next to the baptism. Yeah, wild stuff, right? And now I'm not, and now I don't believe. So it's yeah, so it's a bit of a wild story, but essentially, I came to believe that I eventually, I became a youth pastor. I eventually lost the job as a youth pastor. I went through some just basic life stuff, adult stuff. I started becoming an adult, and
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, the adult stage. I always tell people when they hit their 21st birthday, I always go, "Oh, it's all downhill from here."
Yeah.
It's not true, but it's funny to tell them. And yeah, I just remember deciding that I wanted to. I came to believe that truth was the most important thing. That I needed to investigate my belief system, and investigate what I believed and why, and that truth would stand to scrutiny. Like that I could, it doesn't matter if I don't have to protect my faith when looking at like atheism versus creationism, because it'll always end up at God anyway. It'll always end up at young earth creationism away because it's true, right? But then obviously
allegedly.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's what happened is I was like, okay, I came to realize that I no longer had to protect my beliefs because they were true. And unless I remove that bias of having to the protection of my faith kind of bias, unless I removed that, I wasn't doing honest investigations. And that kind of led me on a whole spiral of, I watched the Ken Ham Bill Nye debate. That was very confronting. I saw some Aaron Ra stuff, saw Matt Delahunty. And I was like, oh no. And then, I started investigating my faith. And I remember at the start, it was like, it was like taking off. I remember I made like a conscious decision to like take off what I called my God helmet. So I would like take off my God helmet and I'd look at the evidence and I'd go, okay, what does the evidence say? And then at the end, I would put it back on. And I remember when I first like mentally did this, when I tried to remove as much presuppositions as possible, as much bias as possible, when I did everything I possibly could, cultural, religious, historical, whatever, as much bias as I could, and just look at the data. I noticed cracks that I wouldn't normally have noticed. And then I was like, that's interesting. I wouldn't have noticed that crack. And then the next time I looked, the crack was a little deeper, and then a little deeper, and then a little deeper. And the next thing I know, I'm standing in this canyon, this like Grand Canyon sized cracks, thinking, how did I not notice this? And yeah, that was that were the starts of the crumbling of my faith, I guess.
Wow. So I could certainly see when you start watching stuff like Aaron Ra, especially, he's really good at what he does. Like when he just describes the evolution stuff and whatnot, he makes it easier for people makes it easy for people to consume it. Right. I think, and when you start to weigh that against what you're taught in creationism, at least from what I've heard, I was never much of a creationist, we'll say. But you just start to understand how it just appears like they're telling you shit that just doesn't match up with what we actually know to be the case, right? So, like, you get people like Hovind that go around saying, "Oh yeah, well, the flood deposited all that stuff," and Ham says the same shit, right? It's like, no, buddy. Geological records say something very different. So,
yeah, well, he doesn't need to just deny the whole geology. He just yeah,
they all do. Well, most of them do, anyways.
Or they have some weird, like they'll say stuff like, well, they don't have a timestamp on this, a date stamped into them or whatever, as if we're gonna ever find that.
Right, but we don't need that, right? That's what we have. We have lots of different types of dating mechanisms that we can use to figure out approximately how old these things are, to within a few years in some cases, right? So there's all kinds of different dating, and they seem to just completely ignore that. Oh, were you there? Well, actually, the rocks were there, as Jackson would say.
Oh, yeah, you just brought back PTSD with Ken Ham. That's Ken Ham, right? Were you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. I've been off the Ken Ham for a while now. I've been focusing on Kent Hovind. But you got to have a little bit of young earth creation in there, just voices to to just get you fired up before you go for a jog or something, because it's just so ridiculous. Yeah.
So was your family really into all this stuff too? And like,
yeah,
like regular churchgoers, that kind of thing?
No, we never went to. I mean, I used to go to church with my mother when I was younger, and my dad a little bit here and there, like kind of off and on, but not really. Like the when I got really into religion, it was mainly because of that spiritual experience, and it was me going and me trying to drag my dad along and things like that, and it was actually that's actually something that happened was my dad married my stepmom, and she was really into Eastern religions, and she was getting, she had Buddhas all around the house, and she was into, like, she was not really into one religion, but she just liked the Eastern thought, I guess, and the art style, the aesthetic, and I used to bring my friends around, and they would go, "Oh, how do you live here? There's all these demons and stuff with the Buddha statues." But yeah, I mean, I remember not even being able to go to restaurants because they had Buddha statues in the restaurants. So we're looking for Indian places or Thai places that didn't have Buddhas, or like with my friends, and it was like,
no
this
Ganeshas, no,
nothing like that. No culture. So anyway, long story short, my stepmom was into a lot of these Eastern religions, and I remember a big stumbling block for me that's always stuck in my mind is she went to some, like, I don't know if it was like some, like, it was some spiritual thing. I don't know what you'd call it. Not a seance, but like something like a I don't know what you'd call it. Like, it was like they were all like, I think they were all like banging on something, or they were praying, or they were doing something, and she did a course to get more spiritually awakened, and they had monks there that didn't speak English and stuff. Anyway, they all went kind of a bit loopy and went like catatonic, like a Holy Spirit moment, where this is how she described it. They were falling on the floor laughing, they were blessing each other, like rolling around, like it was just, that thing that I would experience at church. It sounded exactly like that. And I remember she told me about that, and I was like, and I remember thinking, like, wow, these demons are getting crafty. Like, they're even now doing the same thing. Like, so I remember that was always a bit of a stumbling block. But I never thought too much about it. I just kind of pushed it back to the back of my mind, and it only came out later, like when I was investigating my faith. Yeah, because I remember even like, I didn't even know what the theory of evolution really was. Like, I was a pretty bad student in school, and when someone would ask me about it, I would say, "Oh, yeah, well, I've read a whole book called Refuting Evolution," and I remember just skimming this book, thinking it was like, a good
trash
book. It's not. It's trash. It's absolute trash. In fact, I've bought a copy just so I can do a review of it now that I actually know about what evolution is. So, yeah. But I thought that was like some sort of own, that I've read a book that's called Refuting Evolution, so therefore it's refuted. Like, how would a book not be right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Yeah. Says who? Says this book that's full of nonsense? Maybe not.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about the family now? Like, now that you're out of all this belief stuff, how do they feel about it? And what kind of relationship standing do you have with, like, friends and family that are still involved?
So my mum doesn't. My mum kind of knows, and she's like, I don't know how she feels about it, but she kind of knows that I'm not a believer anymore. My dad and my stepmom, I think I've told them, but they just don't believe me or don't remember, because they keep talking to me about stuff, but they're not super religious either. But my wife's family is quite like, they don't know too much about what we believe. We try and avoid those conversations with them. I'm sure they have their inklings or whatever, but we're not coming in to their house talking about the origin of species or anything. We just kind of do our own thing, and they do their own thing, and so we don't really communicate with them about what we do or what we think and things. So, yeah.
All right. What do you think the biggest thing that you probably let me see if I can rephrase this. Like the one thing I think that you may have seen a bunch of stuff and started questioning and doubting and whatnot, but what do you think the one thing was that kind of pushed you over the edge or broke the straw? You know, like the last straw.
Well, it's hard because it happened over a couple of years, but I don't know if you would classify this as like the straw that broke the camel's back, but there was something that really pissed me off that got me to, I guess, take the whole question more seriously. And that was in 2017. The Australia was voting on a same-sex plebiscite. Plebiscite? Well, I can't speak, but essentially, you know, should same-sex marriage, like the Australian government, they posted out these letters, and the Australian people voted and sent in their letters to decide whether or not, you know, same-sex couples could get married. And at the time, one of my friends, who was the first guest on Deep Drinks podcast, I met him in ministry college, and he was closeted for 45 years. So he was in the closet. I knew he was gay. He told me he was gay, but no one, like only a few people knew he was gay. You know, he never had a relationship ever, never had any type of connection with people, and he desperately always wanted it. Not perverted, anything perverted. He genuinely wanted like relationships.
Yeah.
And it was like he was a normal human. It was weird. So I remember him saying to me once when it was all happening, he said to me, "What do I do when my parents die? Do I just kill myself?" And I said, and I went, "Whoa." And I said, "You're not serious, are you?" And he's like, "Well, I don't have anything to live for." And you know, obviously he's a Christian. That's weird for a Christian to say, kind of thing. And it was also very hard for me to hear. And you know, I said, "Man, you can't think like that. This is crazy." And at the time, I was questioning my faith. And you know, we talked about it and stuff. And then he said something else about. I asked him. I said, "What would you tell yourself 10 years ago?" And he said, this was another time, and I think he was joking, but it was the alarm bell. I said, "What would you tell yourself 10 years ago if you give yourself advice 10 years ago?" And he said, "I'd tell myself to kill myself. Nothing's ever going to get better." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yep." He goes, "You'll still be in the same situation. You won't be straight." Right. And I was like, "Whoa." And he's like, "But if you asked me 20 years ago, I would say to be, you know, come out of the closet and just live your best life, whatever." And I was like, okay, that's when I decided, I was like, this is a serious thing. Like, although he was joking, kind of, a pretty dark joke, I'll give you, it was something that made me realize, like, this is a serious thing, what the Bible says about this. So for Christian, like, it was important for me to investigate it. At the same time, I had another friend, who she was coming to terms with. She came out of the closet, and she was struggling with her faith because of that. And so I'm seeing all this hatred around the church and LGBT issues, and I'm seeing my friends literally contemplating suicide and struggling really bad with mental illness because of the doctrine of the church. And I remember wondering to myself, like, what would happen if, like, in 50 years, the church decides as a whole that homosexuality is okay, just like they did with women not having to wear prayer scarves, or women being able to teach in church, or women, like, all these things that are written explicitly in the New Testament, but are not followed anymore. And
there's lots of churches that already tossed all that stuff out, right? Like,
yeah, which is great.
There's even gay preachers.
Yeah, I love that, but it's not super, like, I mean more of like an overwhelming majority of churches, because obviously you always have the Westboro Baptist Church.
Oh yeah, or we got them here.
Yeah. So that all like, you know, hit me pretty hard. So I started engaging with people on Facebook, like my old Christian friends, and you know, that's all bad enough, but the thing that really drove, like, put the nail in the coffin for me, the thing that really hurt me, that really, like, crushed me, was I reached out to my Christian friends saying, "Hey, I've got this problem with scripture. I've got this problem with the statistics, or it seems as though gay people are just like regular people, and they can raise kids just as fine, and they can do, you know." And what would happen is people would challenge me. They would come to me, to my posts on Facebook, and they would say, "You're wrong. for XYZ reasons. And I'd say, well, do you want to have a conversation about it? And they go, yep. And we'd have a conversation and would go down the thread and would tie up every loose end. So they'd bring up an objection, would follow that objection right to the end until they either I changed my perspective or they changed theirs. And we did that the whole way down. It took overwhelming amount of time, thousands of comments. And right as we got to the end where they had to change their mind or admit where they were wrong, they would just either delete all their comments, or they would block me, or they would stop talking to me, or they would just refuse to answer. I would message them, I would text them. I was polite the entire time. I had people reaching out to me saying, thank you for being so polite and understanding when they're spewing so much hate. And 26 separate people did this. 26 separate Christian friends of mine did this to me. They came at me, they attacked me. We had a conversation. When they discovered that they were incorrect and they had nothing else to bring to the table, they would just stop replying. And then I would see them the very next day, in some cases, spewing the same points that they agreed were no longer valid or had been demolished the next day. So they just didn't care.
Not surprising.
And
not surprising.
It broke my heart. Like, it really broke my heart, because I was like, is my faith really this dishonest? Has it always been this dishonest? Like, that where people just don't seem to care about reality? There was a pastor who I used to do counseling with, and sorry to go on a rant, it's making me angry, but there was a pastor where he literally, you know what? Fuck him. His name's Alan Beadle. Look him up. I don't have much respect for the man. He was quoting this thing called the Gay Manifesto, right? And the Gay Manifesto is a satirical piece written by a gay man in the 80s about, like, this is what the gays want. This is how we're going to control the world and all this stuff. He was quoting
I remember that.
a real source, right? And we're like, this is a satirical piece. This was a joke. And we said this to him. We're like, this is a joke. And he acknowledged it and then still continued to quote it as if it was like legitimate. Like, this is what they want. They want. And I just couldn't believe the dishonesty is what got me. And then because I was so sensitive to that, I started noticing it everywhere. I started seeing Kent Hovind going, well, the Bible says, blah, 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 blah. And I started seeing Ken Ham do the same thing. And I just started going, wow, I can't deal with this. So that was a nail, or there was something in the coffin that really broke for me.
It's not the first time I've heard somebody talk about how dishonest these folks can be, for sure, and using material that they know is bullshit, and that breaks a lot of people. I think that when you realize that what they're spewing is purely nonsensical, and in this case, what you were talking about is satirical, right? Like it was done up as a joke, and they use it as some form of ammunition, and people are shaking their heads like, dude, that's not real.
Yeah.
Yet they continue to use it. It definitely shows the dishonest side, for sure.
Yeah, it's just perplexing to me, because I'm just like, how do you pretend to hold up truth when you must know you're lying? You must know you're being dishonest. How do you claim to have the truth when you must know you're doing that? There must be something. It's almost fascinating. Like, these people could be studied, like, in a lab, like, have a whole team of people. Just how can you have such amazing cognitive dissonance and just not? I just don't understand. I honestly don't understand. It's sometimes I thought there's something
they have to.
Like,
I think,
is everyone else seeing this? Yeah.
I think they have to.
Yeah,
they have to continue the charade, because they've invested so much of themselves for so many years, especially when you're a pastor or a minister or whatever version of clergy. I've known people that even though they were no longer believers, they stayed in the church, and they had to keep spewing the nonsense.
Yeah,
because that's all they knew how to do, and they couldn't say, I got to get out of here and pick up some other career, because it's not just that simple. So a lot of them end up sticking there, and in my opinion, that could be very damaging to someone's psyche to have to continue to do that. Right? Eventually,
I think Dan Barker mentioned
Barker's one of them.
Yeah. Is Dan Barker the one that started, or is an advocate for the Freedom of Religion Foundation, or the
Freedom from Religion? I think him and Lori, I think, were involved in the foundation of that.
Yeah, something or something like that. Yeah, one of those organizations that help people get out of it.
freedom
I
from
don't know if
religion.
he's. Yeah.
There's also recovering from religion, but that's
Yeah,
Dr. Darrell
that's the
Ray.
other one. Yeah.
Who's a great guy, by the way. And I just was messaging back and forth with Dr. Ray about organizing an atheist camp out. We're going to do that, I think, at his campground that he's got there. So I just got to, I'm just going to pick a time and date and then start telling folks and see how many folks want to come out, and we can all chip in a little bit of cash and make it a great weekend. And Dr. Ray said he'd be fucking floored if that happened. He said it'd be great if we could do that.
I'm so jealous because in America you guys have so many like little conventions and not even little conventions and campouts and all this cool stuff. And so I need to come over there and do spend a couple of weeks and just hit up all the hit up the best place. Texas seems to have everything going on, and I don't know.
Yep. I do know this. They're skipping this year for the Faithless Forum. But I don't know if Thomas told you that or not, but
no, he didn't. He didn't mention that.
They're going to kind of rebuild and stuff like that because a lot of stuff happened. It's cost Thomas quite a bit of cash to do it. So he's going to skip this year, and they're going to build up for the following year, which I'm kind of hoping I'll be a speaker at again. Or a panelist again, because I was it for the last one. But the coming up in just a couple of weeks now is going to be the Better Conference in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I will be there for that one as well. Myself and my co-host Mikey will be heading down there, and a bunch more of our friends like student Dr. Ben and some other folks are going to be there for this one. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If any of you guys out there can make it to that, I recommend you go, because we're going to have some great time. It'll give me a chance to see some good friends like Paula Gia and Shannon Q that I haven't seen in a couple of years now. So we get together again and get to have, bring some of our Canadian bullshit down there with us. So it should be a lot of fun.
Shannon Q came on Deep Drinks as well, and ended up being 3 hours.
She's so good.
It was so fun. So much.
You let her go, didn't you? You just let her go, didn't you?
I think by the end, I'm like, okay, I've got to let you go, because this is like, I've just kept you for too long. I was just so entertained and so.
Oh, she'll go forever.
Oh yeah, okay. I think we got.
She's
got
fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
she's fucking
amazing. Yeah, and we got so drunk too. She chose rum, and. Once again, that was a funny. It's funny. It's because it's on the deep drinks we have so many random people. I don't just interview atheists. I've interviewed Hare Krishnas. I interviewed Michael Jones. And what's funny is I have a local Satanist in the area who's the head of the Satanic Temple of Noosa, and Brother
Cool.
Samuel, and I've had lunch with him, but he's going through some court stuff at the moment. He doesn't want to go on any other podcast until that's resolved. It's for some of his activism. And but when he comes on, he wants to drink tea, and he's going to bake homemade pumpkin scones, right? So okay, that's really cool. When I had Michael Jones on, the Christian apologist, he chose Scotch. So I've got me and the Christian are drinking Scotch, just straight Scotch together. Me and the Satanist, pumpkin scones and tea. And I'm like, this is so. This is not what you'd expect. Like, if you want a place drink with,
you think it'd be the other way around.
Yeah, right? yeah. And it was great. It was great.
I think it's going to be the first time I'll agree with a Christian apologist, because I'm a big Scotch fan too, as you can see there, Macallan.
Oh, Macmillan. Oh, Macallan. Oh, yeah, nice.
That's a good one. I can't drink anymore, though.
Oh, why is that?
I'm on anticoagulants, or aka blood thinners, even though that's not what they actually do. The alcohol will do that, but not the pills that I'm on. I had a blood clot. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much dissolved by now, but because all the swelling is gone. And the funny thing is, on Thursday, I was supposed to have a show Thursday, and I couldn't do it because I had to, as they told me at the hospital, go home and elevate your foot, because I twisted my ankle getting out of my car when I got home. And it was bad, man. It was like it hurt for a bit, and I'm like, oh, this hurts a lot. And I'll just rest for a few minutes. And then I just noticed it got hugely swollen. So I'm like, ooh, I wonder if I broke something or rolled it that bad. I went there, the X showed nothing. And they said, yeah, it just looks like you twisted up pretty good. Just keep it elevated. So I'm like, well, I can't do that. I got to do a show. And they're like, no, you're going to keep it elevated or it's going to fucking hurt. So I had to reschedule for Thursday, but it's much better today. I'm actually walking with a very slight limp rather than having to use my fucking cane. Like I was on this for most of the day that I had the fucking thing. So, yeah, lots of fun.
I did my ankle in, when I was 15, and it's never been the same since. I should go to physio, but it's just, it just hurts all the time. I'm just always I'm always rolling it again, like, because it's like the tendons are all stuffed up. So, but it's not good to hear that you had a blood clot. That sounds
thanks, Ian.
Serious. Oh, Ian.
Well,
cool.
Good thing I noticed it. I just noticed that all of a sudden it was tougher to get my left pant leg off when I took my pants off, like to go to bed or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty thick. So I called my doctor. He's like, well, check with me in the morning if it's still really bad, because he thought it could have been just me being on my feet all day in a laboratory, because I'm walking around a lot. He says it could be, you're older now and it could just be swelling up because of that. And he says, if it's still swollen in the morning, go to the hospital. So that's what I ended up doing. And sure as shit, they found a clot, a very sizable clot too, right in my leg. It's called deep vein thrombosis is what it's called.
Right.
So they put me on the number one anticoagulants, these little guys here, Eliquis it's called. And it's been working like a charm. The swelling's all gone. My pant leg comes off with ease, just like the right side. And so it's... there you go, ladies. No, I'm just kidding. I'm easy anyway. It's just, but say hello and I'm like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. So I'm on the paint thinner. Yes, tons of birds. When did you switch to that? Neil's on the paint thinner. Sneaking it in my water here. It's red colored. It's Mio. Why drink water when you can have Mio?
Yeah, I'm a huge Scotch fan as well. I've just gotten obsessed, and it got to a stage where I had a roommate and we were spending over $100 a week just on like getting a new fancy bottle, and we would just do these little tastings and stuff, and we're going like, eventually we're like, we can't afford this hobby, and we started drinking tea and having our conversations, just like, this is boring. But yeah, I still got a love for it. I've got a couple of good bottles up here. My favorite is probably Lagavulin 16 though.
It's good stuff.
21.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of my dad and I used to put away bottles of Glenfiddich 15-year-old.
Oh yeah, Glenfiddich's good.
Yeah. There's, when you get to the more aged and a little bit more expensive stuff, there really isn't a bad Scotch at that point.
Oh,
they all make pretty good Scotch.
Yeah, I mean, they're pricey, but it's just interesting to think, like, there's stuff in this bottle that's older than, it's in the 90s. Like, think about what happened in the world, in the Iraq War, everything before all that. There's stuff in this bottle that's older than that. That's crazy. That's you're drinking history, you're drinking art. It's beautiful. I just a side note on whiskey. I had my wife's boss come over one time, and I was determined to Pete Barnes. He's Pete Barnes.
We can be friends.
Yeah, he's someone from my Discord. Hey, buddy, thanks for coming popping in.
Thank you, Pete Barnes.
I was determined, so I literally spent the entire day, when I was supposed to be working from home, I spent the entire day making a map of Scotland, like putting little logos everywhere. And then when they came over, I was like, okay. And I gave them the full history. I was like, okay, this is a lowland Scotch. So you get this on the palate, this on the nose, right? And I'm doing this really pretentious thing to try and win them over. And by the end, they found which way they would go if they were to get a Scotch. Do they want more smoky? Do they want more Highland, something more pretty?
More peaty.
Yeah.
I like the smoky stuff for sure. Actually, I think most of them, I like them all pretty much. Anything that's a decent age and And mind you, I have had some pretty expensive scotch that wasn't that great. So that's not generally the rule. So we can't always go by that. But there's some really, really good stuff out there. Some of the more well-known names that have some of the older scotches are the ones you can trust for sure, like Glenfiddich and Glenmorangie and Macallan's, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've got a bottle of Glendronach 12.
Yeah,
and that's I only recently just picked that up, and it's been great. Yeah,
that's
just
awesome.
trying to see it over my light. Yeah.
So it seems like all the Aussies are tuning in tonight.
Oh, awesome! Ian's from Brisbane, so I'm 2 hours or an hour north of Brisbane in the Sunshine Coast. So yeah,
nice.
I go to Brisbane all the time for work. I went there the other day, so it's cool. The Aussies are here. Represent.
Look at this, tons of paint thinner.
Did someone just create a YouTube
It's tons
channel?
of mice. He does that all the time. He's hilarious.
That's awesome.
I always felt that I think Australians and Canadians have a lot in common because we both kind of broke away from the old lands, we'll say.
I feel like that.
So I think we're kind of brethren in a sense that we have that in common, and I got to make my way down there. I've never been to Australia, and I really should come down there.
Oh, if you ever make it this way and you ever make it to the Sunshine Coast or around that area, I'll be happy to show you around. Take you to some beaches and stuff. That's mainly the Sunshine Coast is like the beaches, the nature and stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah. A good friend of mine spent some time there, so she loved it down there.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I definitely do want to make my way down there. I want to make it for some, because you guys do have some atheist conventions from time to time down there. So
yeah, I imagine there'd be in like Melbourne. Melbourne, I reckon, would be a very big. Yeah, it's like the left wing.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, it's like a real, I don't know, real alternative city. Everyone thinks that Australia is the scariest country on earth. It's not that scary. Like, you
know how many people live there that are fine? Come on.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's died of a spider bite since the 70s. So that's pretty impressive. There are things like, I went for a walk the other day, a year ago or something, and with my dog Butters, who recently passed away. Yeah, he was a good boy, but we ran up to a black snake, a red belly black snake that was just up in the grass. I'm like, and I jumped over, rolled my ankle again, running off. Butters didn't know what was going on. He didn't see he thought it was a game. He didn't see the snake, so he's running with me, like thinking it's all just fun, and I'm trying to run away from the snake.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
It's like, just fucking run, Butters.
Yeah, exactly. And I call up yeah, it was good. We had to pick a name for because he was a beagle or beaglier technically, and we looked up like the personality traits, and it was like happy-go-lucky was the first thing, and straight away my wife said Butters from South Park. That's happy-go-lucky, and then I was like, oh, I love South Park, and you come up with the names, let's do it. So yeah.
Fuck, there's something I haven't watched in quite some time with South Park.
Yeah.
Oh, so I've got other folks tell me anytime I'm down there. I do want to get down there for sure. So we'll go see you also. All right, perfect. There we go. Yeah, we can pal around together and try and I want to catch me a Sydney funnel web. I'm a spider guy.
You're a spider guy, right?
Oh yeah, buddy. Right in here, I've got. He's kind of sleepy right now, but because the sun is starting to. Well, my blinds are keeping the sun from coming in. But his species name is Phidippus johnsoni. He's a redback jumping spider, actually. That I rescued.
A redback,
like a redback spider, like you guys have.
Yeah,
they're not venomous to us.
That's the only spiders I'll kill in the house is with the redbacks, because we've had a couple of redbacks here, and I don't like killing anything
pretty
really.
sick.
Yeah, and I didn't
sick.
want our pets to get bitten or anything either. But my wife hates the huntsmans. Big hunts. We get
The big
huntsmans
ones, yeah,
here.
sure.
Yeah, you can hear them on the wall sometimes. If they're real scary. It is a little scary, or like when they're real jittery, or it actually is a little bit scary. But I like them because they eat. Yeah, they're harmless. They can bite. It doesn't hurt that much, and they eat all the bad bugs. That's what my mum thinks anyway. I don't know if they actually do. So I call them house spiders. My wife tries to shoo them outside. Get out of here. It's funny though. You can tell in Australia when it's going to rain because your house will just start filling up with spiders, and then the next day or that night it'll just start raining, and they know before the weather, man. So it's pretty cool.
Sure, they could probably feel it, right? So
yeah.
If only they could talk, they could predict the weather for everybody.
Yeah.
What's this? Closest thing to Australia I've ever known is the roos at the zoo.
Yeah, so that's actually is a bit of a funny story with the zoo. So I live with someone who works for Australia Zoo. You know, Steve Irwin's zoo crocodile hunter.
Yep.
And before so his wife Terry Irwin, and she works with them, like and in the wildlife hospital. And we had another roommate who worked for them before that, and we've gone to the back of the enclosures where all the koalas are being nursed and stuff, and she actually got such a connection with one of the koalas they had to eventually put down. His name was Jock, that she got a tattoo of him on her leg, and with a little bandage that said Jock, because he was never going to be released into the wild again, so they could build a connection with him. And they had him for 8 months. He would come to his name. He would jump up on people. He would recognize people's faces, and everyone loved Jock. Sure. Jockey boy. But one thing I remember hearing, just to circle around to the young earth creationists and stuff, is it was always a big thing, like, well, how did koalas, crawl from Australia to the Ark and then crawl back to Australia after the Ark? And, obviously because the biblical story is that every living thing in the whole world died, everything, underwater for a year. And I got a video people can check on my channel. It's called, it's the Noah's Ark video. And I asked people at the Australia Zoo, and I asked my friend, I said, who nursed koalas, and I said, could you feed koalas random leaves sprayed with eucalyptus oil? Because that's the way they get around that, how koalas survived on the Ark. And she goes, definitely not. Absolutely not. And she explained that, and I didn't know this, that koalas will choose to die in the tree if they cannot get the type of eucalyptus leaf they want. There are 200 species of eucalyptus trees, and if they can't get the species they want, they will choose to die and starve to death rather than to eat it. And not only that, they'll eat the smaller shoots at certain times of the year and certain times of the day and on their mood, and then they'll eat the older leaves when they're feeling a bit sick, and there's all these different things that go into when they choose to eat. And the lady we live with, they do leaf shopping. So what they do is they bring the sick koala out, and someone brings in hundreds of different species and different branches from a forest, and they go around and they smell all the different types of leaves. And then they go, I want that one. The koala goes, I want that one. And they go, okay. And they pull that branch out, and then it feeds them the branch. So yeah, kind of makes me think that the story of Noah's Ark probably isn't literal, just based on koalas.
Probably.
Koalas disprove the Ark just by themselves. You don't even need to go to all the problems of everything else. Like the fact that koalas exist, yeah, it means it doesn't. There's no way that Noah's Ark happened.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that. Another thing is not even just the koalas. How the fuck did the sloths from South America get there?
yeah.
I actually move like 6 feet an hour. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. I think I actually calculated it. This is how much of a nerd I was when I was deconstructing my faith. I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of everything, right? And I remember working out that we had 19,000. I'd forgot the number. I think it's 19,600 or 19,100 different endemic species of plant and animal life in Australia. So only found in Australia. And yeah, like 19,000. And that's not including fish, by the way, or not including birds, because obviously they can fly here. So how did 19,000 just like plants and animals just
make their way there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it can't happen. That's how.
Yeah.
And with the mixing of the fresh and salt water too, there wouldn't be any more freshwater lakes anymore.
Yeah,
because it would all be fucking, what do you call it? Brackish water. Everything would be brackish water.
But pretty much the only thing. Haven't you seen Kent Hovind's amazing scientific experiment where he gets some rocks and dirt and stuff and shakes it up and in the container and shows that they all form layers? So atheism debunked.
Right.
Science debunked.
Right.
The religion of evolution debunked.
The religion. Yeah, I love it when they say shit like that.
It's funny, hey, because it's like you're projecting. Like obviously you're insecure about your religion and you're projecting. Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about your channel and tell us about some of the conversations that you've had on your show and kind of like, who would you recommend folks to go check out first? Like which
okay. So I'm actually doing a bit of a rebrand at the moment, moving Deep Drinks onto its own separate channel. And then I'll be focusing a lot more attention on producing more content in that area. But at the moment, they're still up on the channel. I really enjoyed the conversation with Michael Jones. That was interesting. Heathen Queen was
she's
good.
Great.
Yeah. She's she describes herself, or someone described her as the lead pipe of accountability, and I love that. She just seems to be.
I concur.
Yeah. There's a video that I produced on my channel that isn't Deep Drinks related, but it's called How to Read the Bible or whatever. It took me 3 months of like research and work, and no one cared. But it's really good. It's a really good video. It's just not a very clickable video. But I go through essentially, does the Bible have contradictions? And I show how not. I teach a man how to fish, not give him a fish. Like I show how you can discover if the Bible has contradictions, and it's very easy. Right. And it's using Bart Ehrman's technique that he talks about, which reading it horizontally instead of vertically, where you compare each gospel to each other. And yeah, so that was a good video that I'm really proud of. And I have done some funny ones where I review religious debates, and I put them in like a tier list of like S tier to whatever. That was a good one. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of fun over there. But at the moment, I'm really excited about the new channel, new Deep Drinks channel, and I'll probably be not recording them too much going forward, just making them live, so the audience can engage with them a bit more. And we'll have to have you over there. Yeah.
Oh, I'd be happy to come on,
Neil. Yeah,
for sure.
Let us know when you can. Let us know when you can drink again. You don't have to drink alcohol. You can choose something else. We've had other drinks. Had teas.
I smoke weed. Does that count?
Well, I was actually. It's funny. I was actually thinking about that.
Be deep dank.
Deep dank. Well, recreational weed's not legal in Australia, so I might be breaking TOS or something. But if it does become legal,
I'm not going to do it. I won't do it live.
Yeah,
I'll smoke ahead of time.
Yeah, I get so nervous. I get so paranoid when I smoke weed. Like I used to love it as a teenager, but every time I smoke, I get paranoid. And I really want to do an episode where I do smoke. Like it's fuck my paranoia, fuck my anxiety. I'm going to do it. It'll be a shit show. It'll be funny. We can all have a laugh at me. Yeah,
but if you're doing it with someone that's going to laugh right along with you, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I think weed in Australia will become legal soon enough, and I might give it another go. Hey,
following our footsteps, Canadians finally went, this is stupid. Let's make it legal.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed society falling apart, crime, a brothel in every corner? Not that there's anything wrong with brothels.
There's weed stores on every corner now. They're like fucking Starbucks everywhere here now.
That's awesome. Is weed cheap?
Or
is it?
I probably pay about $50 for a half ounce. So
Wait, how many
not bad.
grams is an ounce?
12 grams, I think. Oh, sorry.
Man.
No, it's more than that. An ounce is what, 24-ish grams, 30 grams? I can't remember.
I think how much, like a regular bud, how much is like a regular bud, like roughly?
What do you mean by regular bud?
Like
Here in
what,
Canada,
like
our
how
buds are
weight?
fucking huge here. Dude.
Oh, like a bud, like the size of a coin, like
you can get a half ounce bud if you want.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, because
So,
I remember back when I was back in my day, I'd get like one bud for like $50. So, I mean, our money is similar, I think.
hang on here, let me see.
But yeah, every time I smoke, I just get all funny. But I'll be interested to try it again, especially if
Okay, 28.35 grams to an ounce. So
yeah, okay.
half an
So
ounce would be...
there's no way, that's way cheaper than in Australia too. We have I don't know if you guys have this, but tobacco. I don't smoke cigarettes, but tobacco is taxed so strongly in
Here too.
Australia. Yeah, but it's like $50 for a 25 pack of cigarettes or more. Like it's expensive. Yeah.
Holy shit! I thought $20 back here was bad.
No, it keeps going up and up and up and up, and they got photos on the front of like people dying of lung cancer and like trying to really, stop people from doing it.
Here's an expert.
Oh, okay, that's awesome.
He buys all his weed from this province online, and he lives on the other side of Canada. So.
Whereabouts are you in Canada? I've never been to Canada, so I have no idea.
I'm on the West Coast.
Generally.
I'm in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Oh, cool,
Lower
cool,
mainland.
cool.
Yeah. Also known as
nice.
Hollywood North.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's where they film shit like, Flash and Supernatural and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. My cousin works for the film industry, drives the transport trucks, and he's always going on about how fucking busy he is because they do a lot of movies up here, TV shows up here, you name it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Bollywood North. Yeah. Peace from Toronto, so Hawaii. Nice to see you. Welcome to the show. Shit, I was going to ask you something, and then my mind just went, you're not going to be able to remember. Shit. No, right. Okay. So you were saying earlier that your relationships really haven't changed much with your family like that, but have you ever had like people that you used to be quite close with that have completely disowned you?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. There's like, yeah, there's been situations where like I got really into collecting really famous books and books that were like banned and things like that. And like books that
Which ones were banned?
I can't remember at the time what I was looking at, but I remember there's a quote in Mein Kampf that says, I believe what I am doing the work of the Lord in exterminating the Jew. So I wanted a copy of that so I could point to it when someone argued that the Nazis were atheists or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to have it for historical reasons. And like, I'm just trying to get across, I'm not a Nazi. I hate Nazis. I argue with Nazis and bigots all the time. I'm not. But anyway, I bought a copy of Mein Kampf, had it delivered with a bunch of other books. And I was opening it up with some friends and family around. And I said, I don't want anyone to judge me. It was like 10 books. I got my tax return and I bought a bunch of books. I said, don't want anyone to judge me from the evil book that I purchased. And someone said, is it a book on evolution? I was like, no.
What's the old expression? God forbid.
There's some books on evolution, yes, but no, it's Mein Kampf. Oh, that's fine. Like, I don't know what that is. It's like,
what? So, are you?
No,
serious?
they didn't say it's fine, but like they didn't know what it was or cared. They're like, oh, Hitler's something, right?
Shit.
Like,
yeah.
But yeah. So I've had lots of experiences where I've like lost certain friendships, but it's not necessarily like a hard out rejection. Some people have just like blocked me on Facebook or whatever and stuff, but it's more people don't want to engage, and I find that's like the hardest thing. So we
so I think
my
they're
wife
afraid to be honest. I think they're afraid to.
Yeah, probably. It could be that reason. Or they just don't want the messy interaction. I don't think a lot of people care about what they believe, to be honest. They just don't want to be told that they're wrong. They've been brought up a certain way, they like it, and they don't want to investigate it. There's been situations where I'll notice that people will say stuff to Amy, my wife, because she's a whole lot more agreeable than I am. But won't mention it to me. And I'm always like, why don't people say stuff to me? I'm like, I want to have a conversation. Like, I can be friendly.
Maybe.
But I think I usually am. I'm usually really friendly. No, actually, I'd say almost all the time I'm really friendly. There's only been some occasions when I'm not. Like,
this whole time I thought you were kind of a dick, but you know. No,
there's I argued with some flat Earth racist dude and I was really rude and mean to him because I don't have any respect for bigots. But
good.
But you know, for the most part, I can engage with people politely and calmly and stuff. But I don't think people like my questions. But I remember my wife and I are real big animal lovers. We're both vegans or vegetarians. We try not to push it on people or anything. Like we're not judgy. My wife's making 2 chickens right now for a Christmas in June thing that we're doing. And
cool.
So it's not like we're not preach or anything, but we had friends who live on a property and they raise their own animals to kill or whatever, and they killed one of the lambs, but they killed it with like a blunt ass bread knife, and it took 3 times to get through its throat as it's kicking and screaming and trying to like survive. And I wasn't there when this conversation happened, but my wife said, that's horrible. Like that's horrible. And she was rebuked. And she was rebuked by someone and said, hey, well, be careful. Like God gave us these animals to have dominion over. Don't go too far on the other side where you just start thinking animals have rights. They didn't say that, but like, be careful. Like God gave us these things to have dominion. And I'm like itching. I'm like, if I was there, I would have been like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why do you think God gave them sensory pleasure? Why do you think God gave them the ability to feel pain? That seems really cruel to me. Are you saying kind of like, and I'll just ask questions like that really piss people off. So I can totally see why people don't want to have conversations with me, actually. But yeah, I'd ask a question like that. But it's just like, why? I don't know. Like, it's just stuff like that where I've noticed that I'll hear stuff from Amy all the time that I'm like, I fantasize about someone saying something like that in front of me, so I can ask them how they arrived at that belief. Yeah, yeah. I had another friend say, it was like we're talking about the war in Ukraine or something, and they said this has all happened since the same-sex marriage bill came through. And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said,
"What?
Oh, it's just the world." Yeah, I know.
How
I was like,
did
"It's
they
like
even make that connection?
I know it's like non sequitur." And they're like, "Oh, the world's just gone to crap since then." I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, can you tell? And I said to them, like, can you describe the mechanics? Like how does that work? Is there like are there like goblins that go and whisper in politicians' ears? That like, hey, tell me, how does this work? Like, and they go, oh, I don't know and stuff. And obviously they abandon that thought pretty quickly. Another friend said, there's a lot of anti-gay stuff apparently where I'm from, but one of my friends said, that homosexuality is murder. And I said, why? What?
How?
So why? And they said,
what?
Because they can't have kids. And I said, and I went, wait. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, wait. And I said,
they can adopt.
I was like, do you use protection? And then he goes, yeah. And I went,
murderer.
Went, oh, okay, you got me there. And I was like, what? How does your whole worldview just collapse? Like, how do you say something so inflammatory and so like aggressive, and then it just all collapses with one simple question? Like, do you use protection? Oh yeah, I do. Well, then you're a murderer as well. Oh, well, then it's not murder. Like, how does that happen? So we went to a friend's wedding, and she got married to her lovely partner. And I took a photo of them at the altar, and I sent it to him, and I said, "Fucking murderers." They just look so happy, in love, and it's like these fucking murderers. But it's just like they must know how stupid this stuff is, you know? Like, it's just ridiculous.
I wonder sometimes. I think
Yeah.
they've convinced themselves of the ridiculousness of it all. You know?
Yeah.
Might sound ridiculous, but it's the truth. Is it now?
The
All right,
truth.
then. The truth. Yeah, exactly. Well, my friend, we have gone the hour, and I'm hoping that you're going to be able to do the after party.
Yeah, definitely.
For a little while, because we're going to have a lot of other great folks in here with us. So you can, some of them might have some questions for you, and
cool.
so you'll be up open for answering some of those. And before we get out of here, first and foremost, David, fucking awesome having you on, dude. And I'm looking forward for the day you finally drag my ass on over to your show.
For sure.
That should be a lot of fun. And I also want to give a special shout out to, and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Hawaii, who has first time I've noticed you in my chat, and I very much appreciate that you dig the content that I do. That means a lot to me, because I do this for folks like you, because I saw some of your comments earlier that you recently came out. And I hope that this is a platform that you would like to try and come and share your story with us, Hawaii. If you would like to do so, my email is in the description box below, and you can get a hold of me there. And I'd love to have you on the show and have a conversation with you. Excellent.
Yeah, I'm just reading through the comments now. It's really awesome to see you had the courage to come out in February.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And
I'd
love to have you on.
I've had a few, obviously, because my story is tied up with my friend, coming to terms with his sexual identity. I've had a couple people on who were, Haley Brooke, who's TikTok sensation, and she lost her family when she came out, and my friend Colin Pettit, both on the podcast. And I made the joke, I think, both times that if Amy and I had a kid and they ended up being straight, I'd still love them. I'd still accept them for who they are if they were straight. It's totally, and it's one of those things where, like, I love that it's become. I know that a lot of people don't like this, but I love that LGBT stuff is becoming trendy, because although it's like swaying in one direction, like where people are, I guess, pretending to be queer or something to get clout, I think that's actually although I don't really like that, obviously, I think it's actually a sign of society turning in the right direction. It's like, okay, well, we're accepting these people. Like, it's cool to be who you are. That's really awesome. So it's great to see that you've come out.
Yeah, fantastic. And Hawaii, you're very welcome. You're always welcome. If you ever feel you got the courage to jump into an after party too, just to get a feel for stuff, just hit me up as well. If you're on Twitter, you can find me at 604 Atheist, and as just like this says down below here. Also, I am on Facebook under my actual name, which is Neil Bernstein. You can't miss it because I have the I don't know what I did with it, but I have the ACA coaster that they gave me for being a co-host on their shows as my picture. So you can't miss me there either. So hit me up one way or the other, and we'll talk. David, once again, thank you, my friend, for being on the show. Great guest. Had a great conversation. I'm sad Mikey missed this one, because I think he would have had a blast chatting with us. However, he does plan, or at least he's planning to make at least some of the after party, because
cool.
I mean, I can't blame him for going to a barbecue. I mean, come on.
Exactly.
Right. You got to do the good husbandly thing and be there with the wife, with the family and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah. If chicken wings and beers are on the go, or for me, whatever we have, beyond meat, I'm there. I'm just there for the beers, really, and the great conversation. Love
I miss beer. Although
One
I do
day,
sneak the occasional one in. Well, when we head out to the Better conference in Fort Wayne, I'm gonna sneak a couple. I'm pretty sure. I can't. Yeah. I mean, I can. My hematologist is like, you shouldn't be drinking. I'm like, yeah, but I can sneak like the occasional beer. She goes, well, I mean, sure, but I wouldn't make a habit of it. And I'm like, okay.
So
and I honestly haven't had one since Faithless Forum, which was in November. Oh no!
Oh,
I had one with a dinner thing for my
okay.
nephew's
So I thought this was
12th
just like a
birthday.
temporary, like couple of weeks thing. Is this like a?
Oh no! This is until further notice.
Oh no. Okay, we might have to do something. We might have to drink something else on Deep Drinks. I don't want you to put your health at risk if you come on.
I could sneak one on. I mean, I could do one for the beer, and then I'll just move over to my Mio water. Right.
So. Well, I can get some Mio water, and then we can.
I got strawberry watermelon right now.
Awesome.
We have like all the flavors. We got the lemonade's a great one. It tastes like fucking lemonade. It's like, holy cow.
Cool.
Yeah, and I've got the cherry blackberry one, and I've got the peach mango, which is another one of my favorites.
Mio water. I'm gonna have to look it up. I wonder if we have it in Australia.
MIO. Yep. Maybe it's like it's no sugar, no calories, no sodium, any of that.
Oh, no, awesome.
A little bit of sodium.
I've been slamming.
They squirt it in the water.
Yeah, Coke Zero kind of stuff for ages, and I think Coke Zero is better than Coke, normal Coke.
Aunt Jur says, just dilute the beer with water. We are no longer friends. You don't do that to beer.
Just blocked.
I'm kidding. Aunt Jur is one of my favorite people ever. She keeps me in line. That's what she does.
Yeah. Awesome.
She's awesome. All right. Let's do this, folks. We are going to get into the after party, and hopefully Mike will be able to join us. If you are interested in jumping in and hanging out with David and myself, and hopefully Mikey, just let me know via Twitter or Facebook. Send me a message and I'll get a link to you, or you can email me, which is at 604atheist@gmail.com, and I can send you a link that way. And we do take a bit of a break between the shows, so we should be getting going close to about 6:30ish. So Pacific time, or whatever 30ish of the time zone you're in.
Okay. So in like half an hour-ish, 23 minutes-ish?
Well, yeah, take a bit of a break. I got to grab a quick bite and refill my water, have a smoke or whatever, and then come back and we could do this.
Yeah. Sweet.
But great having you on, David. And to all you guys out there, it's great having you guys in the chat. As always, love interacting with you guys. And so, yeah, here we go. See, Mikey's not here, so I got to do this. So thank you to everyone on the chat in YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And also thanks to my awesome, amazing patrons. I couldn't do this without you guys. Thank you very much for all you do for the show. The link to the after party is in the description box below, so you can hit that. And then, like I always say at the end of these things, like the late, great Christopher Hitchens once said, it's called faith because it's not knowledge. And we'll see you guys next time.